Welcome to the WoT Heat tier list. So today we're going to kind of be going over all the vehicles after patch 1.2. This is going to kind of be more of a rapid fire style of one of these videos. So I'm not going to go into depth too much, and I'm not going to be showing like real clips or anything of the vehicles, but I will explain like my positioning and everything, and this is based off of fully upgraded vehicles. So currently, ALVT, it still sits at S tier. For this vehicle, I mean, simply put, it's great DPM, decent armor, decent mobility. Everything about it is still pretty solid, even after the nerfs, still pretty good. There is some things that I've been hearing in the woodworks that the vehicle is going to get nerfed again, and there is a chance that in case I don't put out another tier list soon enough, depending on those changes and how severe they are, it could move the vehicle down to A tier, but I don't see the vehicle ever moving down to B tier. But for now, currently it is S tier. FV, I think this vehicle is S tier, and after playing into the tournament, I can clearly see why it would be deemed S tier, especially for competitive play and stuff like that. It has a great ability to lock down people. It just doesn't want to fucking die, ever. High explosive is a good option for this vehicle. AP is a good option for this vehicle, depending on what your team comp is going. Everything like that. I think the FE is extremely solid. Wonderful S tier vehicle. Unironically, really annoying to kill. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in S tier. Now, with the nerfs to the Martyr, I think this actually is going to drag the HSTV-L back up to S tier. So one of the bigger reasons why I had been putting like the HSTV-L in A tier was actually due to the Martyr. But now that the Martyr has been heavily nerfed, that you can't even see it anymore in most games. Like, I barely even see the vehicle anymore at all. I think this has given the HSTV-L a lot more agency, along with the masked recon. Makes his vehicle very potent, especially when you're playing in like Plant and Diffuse. Leo, honestly, I can still put the Leo in C tier. It's not horrible all around. I still don't like it. But there's the vehicles I dislike more. Simply put, the vehicle it's alright, right? Don't get me wrong. Again, still super squishy, but regardless of that fact, the best aspect of this vehicle right now is the fact that it utilizes long range damage so efficiently. And that is one of the things that is currently propping this vehicle up, is the ability to just get a shit ton of score, because its ideal playstyle is sitting super far back and touching people from 200 to 300 meters away. It's ideal, and there's nothing wrong with that being the ideal playstyle of the vehicle. The problem is once you get a little too close to enemies, or enemies get a little too close to you, you kind of can't really do anything much else. Speaking of which, Leopard 2FK, I think this is a solid A tier vehicle, kind of even bordering on S tier. After the buffs that increase the actual damage for the ATGMs, the vehicle does feel relatively fun to use. You can use it close range or far range. Close range wise, the reason why you can use it so close is the ATGM property of being able to crit people for 1600 damage close up is just really nice. I think 1600 is a bit of a stretch. It's more like 1500-ish on ammo crits and stuff like that, but it also has extremely high penetration, so it has a very easy time with getting those penetrations. And it doesn't suffer at long range either because of the ATGM. And actually, it does perform a little bit better at further ranges due to the abilities being able to make it harder for enemies to actually hit you back. I do enjoy this vehicle. I think the modules on it are okay. It doesn't have the greatest like modules ever, but it does have some pretty niche modules that are quite interesting. Let's keep going on. M1E1. I think I still think for solo play and stuff like that, even competitive, the M1E1 is still solid. I don't think it's as good in competitive as compared to like the FE. I think the FE is just slightly better. Just kind of ekes out a little bit more because of the damage, and also because of the kind of armor profile funkiness of the FE being a little bit more annoying to kill than the M1E1. Mm, like, don't get me wrong. I think M1E1 is definitely, I think it's definitely still S tier, just in regards to high damage output, decent mobility, and good abilities and stuff like that. So overall, I say it's still decent S tier. Bradley. I think I could still stick it in B tier, but I again still see less of them. Just kind of in general, due to the fact that it's also paired with the Martyr, and now that you can kind of swap between vehicles on an agent, because most people aren't going to be playing the Martyr, a lot of people aren't going to be playing the Bradley either. But I do still see it from time to time as a popular pick. M60A1, it's still kind of bad. I won't lie. I do wish there was some buffs to this vehicle, but I'm unsure of what's in the woodworks now. I actually think the M55 1A1 is better now that the Martyr is nerfed as well. It's not that much better, but I could see an argument for it being D tier instead of F tier. And in some circumstances, depending on lineup, it can be a decent pick, but again, you would rather just take the HSTV-L over the M55 1A1 almost any day. There's very, very niche cases where I think the M55 1A1 is better, and it's not super often. Let's go ahead and talk about the Object 287. I haven't really been seeing a lot of these. It's still a decent vehicle overall. It's good DPM, fun abilities, stuff like that. I think it's still a solid A tier. Same with the T62 AV. It's the ultimates on these vehicles are extremely good. There are things that counter the ultimates, but one of the things that I've seen consistently in the community is the frustration of going against the ultimate, and that's sometimes due to the mechanic not being known that every single instance of damage is counted against the ultimate. The things like the M1E1 burn through the ultimate, ALVT burn through the ultimate, HSTV-L, not as much. The ALVT has clusters, which kind of help it, and also the ability to set vehicles on fire, which also help it. The autocannon vehicles also being nerfed, or specifically the Martyr not being played as consistently, it kind of puts these two vehicles in a little bit of a better spot as well, just because you're not facing a vehicle class as often that almost completely shuts down the ultimate for these vehicles, which is overall kind of a slight buff for these vehicles in general and how they play. XM190, I still think it's a solid B tier vehicle. It's definitely a good all-rounder, don't get me wrong. It's just sometimes there's things left to be desired, and if you're playing against experienced players, it's just becomes tofu against them, because they just shoot your little ears on the top of the vehicle and pen your ammo rack, and it makes it feel like it's a lot squishier than it should be sometimes. XM1V, I still think it's S tier just due to the lockdown potential and the utility that it brings in competitive, and also just in general. I think this vehicle is definitely a vehicle that is better played with the team and stuff like that, and with a squad. This makes this vehicle a lot better. I think one thing that I've noticed recently with this vehicle is, for some reason, the timing on the ultimate seems to be completely off, in the sense that it takes a little bit longer for it to actually come down than I feel like it used to. But that's just in my opinion, and maybe it is just me kind of thinking of that because I don't see the cinematics anymore, and maybe that's all that it has to do with, because once the cinematic finished, it was already kind of falling down, and then after that, it's like, whatever. Even then, I feel like the timing has gotten longer on the ultimate, and I felt myself kind of missing the ultimate a little bit more. Still a solid vehicle. I just think that, like, the FB, it's kind of hard counters it sometimes, to be honest. AMX. AMX is a decent vehicle. Don't get me wrong. Actually still pretty mobile and everything like that. I think it's still a solid A tier. Heat's a good option on it. It has the heat ATGM, so it can kind of play around with that mechanic as well. I think its energy economy is kind of the worst aspect of this vehicle. In all honesty, like, it has good mobility, decent survivability if you're at range and stuff like that. But what I am seeing a lot with this vehicle is it's being played super close range, and that's because it does have a little bit higher health with the shields on it compared to like the Leo and stuff like that. But I don't think it's like, you can play it like a close range brawler, but you just gotta understand that it's not intended for that purpose. I think it's still a solid A tier. Finally, we have the M60A2. I don't know. There's just something about the M60A2 that is, super fantastic. But the problem with the M60A2 is understanding the actual arc of the vehicle itself. So, the heat arc, it's a little bit funky, and the high explosive isn't that great when you're grinding up to it, or even if you use high explosive when fully upgraded, it's kind of meh. Heat is extremely good, but at further ranges it definitely feels a little bit more finicky. If you can get that down to a T, I say the M60A2 generally is an S tier, and in my opinion I feel like it's an S tier vehicle. But I can see the argument being made that the ballistics makes it much more difficult to play and kind of drops it down just a little bit for me. I know the FE has ballistics on the AP as well, but I feel like they're a lot more manageable than on the M60A2. Martyr. By golly, has he fallen. I think in the past, like, 20 games that I've played, I have seen one Martyr. And yeah, he kind of dies relatively fast. With the mine changes and everything like that, they are a lot easier to dive. And in all honesty, I think it's just as bad as the M55 1A1, if not a little bit worse. Would I put it in F tier? Now that is a question for the ages, because is it that bad now? I think kind of, in a sense. Like, yeah, I think the way that they changed the mines with the max of only 2 mines, the time that it takes to place those 2 mines after you place the initial 2, the energy management, all of that kind of killed the vehicle for me. And like, there wasn't enough respective buffs towards like the gun or the ATGM to kind of make the vehicle feel a bit better. Yeah, because like the whole identity of the vehicle was the mines, and I get wanting to move away from the whole identity of the vehicle being the mines, but I don't know. I feel like it was definitely a bit much for the vehicle. I think you can still do some funky things with the ATGMs, so maybe it's more of a D tier vehicle overall. Leo 2KST, I think this is also a solid A tier vehicle. A few things kind of want to point out. I understand that most of the like higher players on the leaderboard are using the Leopard 1A6. Again, not saying that the vehicle is complete and utter dog shit, but it is definitely overinflated by the fact of the long range XP, making it seem like these scores are definitely overinflated for this vehicle. Yeah, overall, I'm pretty comfortable with this. I think the only other things that maybe I would move is kind of where the XM1V is. Maybe the Leo 2FK. Maybe it could go in S tier. It is a pretty solid, like, just overall like vehicle, especially with the ultimate and stuff like that. The Leopard 2KST, I think it's pretty close to S tier as well. So the Leopard 2KST's EMP ability is honestly cancer as fuck to play against. Deals a lot of damage, kind of annoying. If he throws it behind you or opposite of where your vehicle is facing and you can't run it over or shoot it, it will chunk the shit out of you. Huge area, can jam you, does a lot of damage. Yeah, it's an annoying ability. It does a lot for the vehicle, and with the modules and stuff, you can absolutely slam some people with your shells. It is pretty close to S tier. The Leo 2FK, the only downside for it is the feign death. It can get people sometimes, but it's not as universal as like the Leo 2K ST. Yeah, overall, maybe I would lower the Martyr or bring up the M55 to maybe C tier, because it's not. But with some of the changes, I would say it's closer to a C tier vehicle compared to the Martyr. Yeah, okay, so overall, that is the final verdict. If you did enjoy the video, I would appreciate it if you left a like and subscribe so you can see future videos. Have a good one. Goodbye.